Hi, this SOS video is about multiplying and dividing integers, and they follow specific rules. Remember, an integer is a whole number or its opposites. There's no fractions or decimals with integers. When we say evaluate, we mean to find the final value. The quotient is the result of when we divide at least two numbers. The product is a result of multiplying at least two numbers. And if you are asked to justify, that means prove a statement with a mathematical example. So if you agree or disagree, your example needs to support that. So remember, our rule to multiply or divide integers, if they have the same signs, the result is positive. If there are different signs, the result is negative. And a strategy to use is our tic-tac-toe board. So when you fill out the tic-tac-toe board, we're going to put the plus signs on a diagonal. Let's get rid of this. And then fill in everything else with a negative. And this helps us with multiplying integers. A positive times a negative is a negative times a positive is a negative, and a negative times a negative is a positive. How about when we divide? It's the same thing. A positive divided by a negative is a negative divided by a positive is a negative, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So let's practice evaluating the following. What you could do is stop the video, do the problems yourself, and start the video up again and see how you did. Okay, let's check your work. A negative 6 times a negative 2, well, a negative times a negative is a positive. So that would be a positive 12. A positive 9 times a negative 4, well, a positive times a negative is a negative, and that would give us negative 36. A negative divided by a positive would be a negative, and 24 divided by 8 is 3. Positive 30 divided by positive 6 is what we've been doing all along so far, and that was a positive 5. Negative 9 divided by 0, I put an asterisk here because we cannot divide by 0. So if you try to do that, our answer is undefined. Anytime we divide by 0, it would be undefined. Okay, how about this? Well, a negative times a positive would give me a negative. So this is a negative 10. And then a negative 10 times a negative 3, a negative times a negative is a positive. So this would give us a positive 30. And let's practice some word problems. True or false, if G is a negative number, then the opposite of G is a positive number. So let's think about it. If G is a negative number, so this is a negative number, then if I have the opposite of it, a negative times a negative would be a positive. So our answer is true. Justify your answer with an example. So my example, if G is a negative 5, then the opposite of G, the opposite of a negative 5, would be a positive 5, and that is a positive number. For the next 3 questions, fill in the blank with either 0, positive, or negative. The quotient, so the answer when I divide, of two negative numbers is, well, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So my answer would be positive. Before you go on to this, set up the tic-tac-toe board again. Try to fill it in on your own. Remember, we put the positives on the diagonal and fill everything else in with the negatives. The product, the answer when I multiply, of a negative integer and a positive integer, so a negative times a positive would be a negative. And finally, the product of a negative integer and 0, well, 0 has that special power. As a matter of fact, that's one of the properties. 0 product property says that anything times 0 will give us back 0. And an example of that a negative 11 times 0 is going to be 0. And that is the SOS video on multiplying and dividing integers.